So the cleanup begins on Little Joe. Now I'm starting out with a little bit of bleach-free cleanser mixed with some water into just a really kind of wet but slightly rubbable thing. So I'm not really cutting into what's there, I'm just kind of cleaning what's there. I mean, the patina on this thing is really awesome. I don't want to take that away, but I do want to clean it and make it look like it's loved. So I'm going to go after it with this, a little cleanser bath, and we'll give it a wash off and see what we got. Now, definitely important over this hand-painted logo here to not cut into that and not do anything that's going to remove any material. I mean, this is a big part of the history of this truck, is this character. Fortunately, it was done well. It's not lifting, it's not doing anything crazy. It looks like we'll be able to clean right around it and have it look decent, but this isn't something I'd want to go after with a buffer. The chances of wearing through that is going to be really high because this is all painted by hand. So you've got high spots where the letters went over each other. It was all done with a brush. It's not going to be super smooth. I can feel it as I go across there. And the last thing you want to do is cut into that and start flaking that off of there. So going at it slow and steady will win the race and make a real nice difference. Go at it too hard and you ruin it. I mean, this is original paint, it's history, and you burn through that stuff and it's gone. So take it easy. Okay, I've hit this corner with a little Comet bath. I went back with a rag and the hose and really tried to wash any of that cleanser out of the corners and things like that. And as this dries, we'll see how it looks. Obviously, it looks incredible wet, but it's not going to stay wet unless I clear coat this thing. And I highly dislike that. I dissuade that. I've seen a lot of people take historic paint and put a clear coat over it, and unfortunately it loses that original luster. There's something about the softness of original paint, especially when it's just a little flat, that really speaks volumes to the history of the car. And you clear coat over that, you kind of ruin it. So I'll come back with a little video here after this dries, so we can kind of see what we're dealing with. Looking in close, there's still some patina and stuff here, a little surface rust coming through. There's definitely a lot of stuff that's embedded in this paint. I may decide to go a little bit deeper, but with doing a cleanser bath just at the start is a great way to see what you've got. And then if you want to unwrap that package further and try to bring a little more color out of that paint, you can do that. You can smooth it out a little bit, color sanding, polishing, so on and so forth. But this is a rugged off-road vehicle. This is not something that needs to be shiny and perfect. In fact, I think if it was shiny and perfect, it would take some of the, well, just some of the soul away. So I do want to leave it kind of matte, kind of flat, and let it really speak the history that it has. This thing has been some amazing places, and there's photos to prove it. So anyway, we'll see how this looks when it dries. Okay, the area that I went after has dried, and we can kind of see what we're dealing with here. You can see where I stopped right here. So you can see the difference between kind of, well, the before and after. It's certainly bringing a little bit of color back to it. It's smoothing it out. It's looking clean. It's not looking offensive. Well, compared to the other side here, you can see it really is a significant difference in that color. And that's just from a real simple bath with a really watered down Comet type cleanser there, just to clean the surface a little bit. So it's looking so much better already just with that. Now, as you look closer, there's definitely still some dirt and things in this finish. And again, I can go deeper if I want to go deeper. I could really bring this thing up to a total shine if I wanted to, but I'm not sure if I really want to at this point. So I might go around it all with just first the initial bath, kind of see how it looks, and then do something to protect it so that it stays clean. And by doing that, it'll also bring back a little more color and a little more luster as well. But nice progress there, just in a few minutes with a towel and some cleanser and the garden hose. Okay, so I've decided not to really dig too much deeper into the paint, at least initially. I may go back and try to get more contaminants out of that paint. But for now, I just want to finish it off with something that's going to kind of hold things there, keep the dust off and so on and so forth. So I've gone after this fender here with, well, basically, it's a furniture polish. Now, I know you're going to think, what the hell's wrong with you? But what I love about this stuff is that it's all natural stuff. There's no chemicals in here. It's something that can strip off with a little soap and water. I mean, it really is a simple thing. It's mostly beeswax, a little orange oil, that sort of thing. And by rubbing that onto the finish here, it gives a little bit more color, and it kind of seals up any of the spots. So areas where there's a real rough spot here, it puts a little bit of, well, a little bit of moisture into that. So here, I'll spread some of this out here on the finish. You can see what it does. As you can see, it immediately fills up that spot there. And much like a wax or a polish or something like that, it just adds a little color and a little moisture to that paint. What I also love about it is it doesn't get oily and greasy. There's stuff out there like the ceramic coat sprays and things like that. They kind of give you the same sort of effect, but that stuff is a lot harder to get off of there if you want to do more. Where this, it's a real light coat. There's not a whole lot to it. And again, with a little good soap and water, that stuff kind of goes away. But it protects what's there. It gives it just a little bit of shine. You can see it's not super glossy. You're not seeing, you know, a bright reflection in it. It's still a very warm, soft finish. And I think once I go after this whole hood, especially on all the curves and all the little stuff, it'll be pretty fantastic. So don't be afraid of trying some non-traditional automotive type stuff when you're cleaning these cars, especially something historic. Again, you want to approach cautiously. Don't use any heavy chemicals. Don't use any buffers. Don't use any crazy stuff unless you really know what you're doing, because you could do a lot more harm than good. So this will be cool to show this side that I have not done anything to, and then working around onto the passenger side, the results of a little Comet bath, a little wipe with some basic furniture polish. Another fun stuff about this sort of material and sauce is that it's well, it's a lot cheaper than going to your auto detailing place. This is $10 and this is good stuff. I've seen people do it with lemon pledge, and it smells nice and it's good for your hands, and far better than some of the heavy chemicals that you'll spend $50-$60 a bottle on. And as you can see when you get up close, I mean, it just gives it a really nice, soft, untouched appearance. It looks like you haven't done anything. However, it's obviously far better than the other side. So I'm digging that. Little Joe's going to be fantastic with continued detailing here. Oh, another thing I wanted to point out is one of the things I love to do is to get into the corners, anywhere where there's old built-up wax and stuff like that. Getting that out of there makes a huge difference in the overall presentation. So spend a little time with a soft brush in these areas, get that stuff out around nuts and bolts and things like that. And you'll be amazed at how much nicer it looks. Any little spots of white in the corners there tend to draw the eye, and it's subconscious perhaps. You don't really notice it at first, but if you go back in and clean that stuff out, it looks so much better. So now I've got little Joe in the lab here, and I'm continuing with the cleanup and detail process. Emptying out stuff like the tool chest here. There's some great old treasures in here, stuff that's been in there forever. Love the machete and the little pickaxe, chain, stuff like that. Cool little jack. some flares in case of an emergency. I mean, this thing is really a time capsule. All that stuff was stashed down in here. And when I washed the car, well, it got a little water in there because I was blasting out all the areas around the seat. So I've let that dry out. I pulled out the carpet that was back in here, and I'm starting to treat the floor back here, cleaning all of this, just getting it down to the clean original finish. I'm not polishing, I'm just treating it with the same stuff that I've done on the hood, and I'm going to go around and do the rest of the body as well. Now, some areas like the tailgate here, certainly that's got some significant surface rust and patina there. I might give that a real nice, gentle scrub to see if I can get a little bit of color back to that. But I definitely don't want to disturb that awesome original sign writing there from Paisano Press and the Ends of Rego Desert Guidebook. I mean, that is what Jeeps are all about. I mean, this thing's absolutely California history, and I've got to preserve it and treat it as such. So anyway, in the lab now, I'm going to keep on polishing, cleaning, and sharing the process as I come across anything that's worth sharing. Obviously, a big difference from this side to this side, and that's really what I'm after. Gotta love it. Definitely making some progress here. I'm continuing on around the body. You can see that the color is definitely coming back a little bit. But when it comes to the tailgate here, I haven't touched it yet. And initially I was thinking I might try to get in there and color sand just lightly, try to get through a little bit of that surface rust and bring out that color. But the more that I think about it and the more that I look at it, I think that's a really bad idea. And this is why. When you look at all of the details of the pressing of that tailgate, you've got these little clips and stuff on there, all the deep little corners and stuff. To get in there and to try to color sand all of that and get into those deep corners is going to be extremely difficult. And I think the chances of having a real consistent look to the overall surface are really slim if I go in deep and do that. So I've decided I'm just going to preserve the tailgate as it is. I'm going to do as I did over here, where the back of the Jeep actually had a fairly similar look to it. You can see it with the preservation agent on there versus on the other side, where it's kind of rusty brown and stuff, just like the tailgate. So I think that's going to be the way to go. I think it'll make it look right, and it's going to reduce the chance of doing something that looks like the surface was manipulated. And that's what I want to stay away from. I want to preserve that original patina as much as possible, and it's only original once. If I get in there with some sandpaper, I'm going to have spots in the corners that I can't get to, around the letters and stuff, around all of this stuff, where it's going to look kind of rusty, and then the rest will be red, and it's not going to have a consistent, solid look. So I'm going to try to video doing maybe half of the tailgate there so you can see how it looks before and after putting a little bit of the beeswax and orange oil stuff on there. That stuff really works wonders on a real dry original paint job like this. Once you get the surface clean and you start hitting it with that, it comes right to life. I got in here and I did this side of the floor. You can see all around the black pieces there. It looks very clean. I'm going to go back, wipe it all down so that there's no greasiness to it or oiliness to it. It all tends to settle in there and dry quite nicely, and it's good. So I love that stuff. I know a lot of people might think it's a foolish thing. Maybe it doesn't last as long as some of the official compounds and stuff that are out there. But it's cheap. It's very innovative. It's not getting in there. It's not ruining anything. It all come off of there. And the difference between before and after is significant. So, all right, let's dive into that tailgate and see what we get. Again, what I'm using here is this Howard's Feed and Wax. This is beeswax and orange oil. Basically, it's very natural and that sort of thing. It's nice. It's non-toxic. It's good stuff. So spread a little bit of that on a rag. A little blop. Ooh, that was maybe a bit too much. But we will see what it does as I lay into it here. So you can immediately, it moisturizes that surface. And it looks really greasy when you first put it on. After you let it settle in a bit and kind of dry on there, if you go back with a clean cloth and wipe it down, all that greasiness will go away and it'll end up having a really nice matte finish to it that looks right. You know, you don't want to just douse this whole thing in motor oil, although that can be a fairly good preservative as well. But you also want it to beat off water when it gets on it and that sort of thing. Oh, this is magic. Look, as I wipe this, how you see that original four-wheel drive logo coming out of there. Oh, dude, you see, if I got in there with sandpaper, color sanded that area and stuff, some of that would be lost, and that is absolutely gorgeous. Man, I love this. It's like unwrapping a package on Christmas, only a little better. Okay, so there's sort of a before and after there with it on there wet. Now, again, I'm going to go back and I'm going to dry that all off of there once it has a chance to soak into the top layer of everything. So in the end, it's not going to be as greasy looking. It'll end up having a nice matte finish to it. Another thing that I've pointed out in other little clips is it's really important to get into the deep corners of stuff. So even around where the latches are and things like that, I'd really hit every little part of it. Getting down underneath these little strap cleats, all of that is going to make it look really good. The cleaner it is and the deeper you get that into the corners, the better the overall look is. The eye gets drawn to differences and stuff. So when you look down in this crack here, you see that lighter color, and whether you're really paying attention to it or not, your eye catches that. But you get down in there and lay some of that in there so that that goes away, and the whole surface looks so much cleaner. There's a little bit of wax in here. I'll get a brush, I'll get that out of there so that your eye doesn't grab that. Devil's in the details, as they say. But heck yeah, that's looking pretty cool. I'm going to do the other side. Now, one of my pet peeves when it comes to patina cars are the wheels. Now, I see so many people take an original paint car and they clean it up a little bit and then they paint the wheels to try to make the wheels look really nice. Well, I get the idea of that. The wheels are certainly one of the major focuses that the eye grabs onto on any car. However, if you're really trying to preserve some history, the last thing you want to do is to paint those frickin' wheels. They'll stand out like a sore thumb. I see it in the VW scene an awful lot because I'm involved with that a lot. Guys will take an old patina bus, they'll polish it up, they'll paint the bumpers, they'll paint the wheels, and it just looks like crap. Stop it. Don't do it. Just clean that original paint, especially if it is original paint, on those wheels, or make some effort to try to find wheels that are original paint that match what you've got. A lot of times wheels get swapped around from car to car and that sort of thing. So sometimes you got to do your best. Like in the case of our Mercedes, the 1940, those wheels have been painted yellow at one point, and I just thought it was absolutely hideous on a red car, and the original photos that we had of it definitely showed the wheels as red. So I did my best to paint those wheels so that they look like they are original. I left some surface rust that came on through, and I did some really neat stuff on those. I'll show a quick photo of that here so you can see what those look like. But in any case, on Little Joe here, I am just cleaning the original wheels. I'm doing it with the same process that I'm doing it with the body. However, I am going in just a little bit deeper because the wheels tend to get a bit of surface rust on them. I'm using a 4/0 steel wool. This is the finest steel wool that I can find. And I'm soaking this in that same polish. And I'm not pushing super hard. I'm just trying to get any sort of surface corrosion or flakes off of there so it's a nice, clean, finished look. So I just did the front wheel, including the locking hub. Now, I didn't get in here and clean super deep. I didn't want to polish that brass or the the cast aluminum that's around there. I really want to make it look like it's undisturbed, but maybe just a little cleaner so that you can read the Warn Locking Hub logo on there. So I'm done with this wheel. I hit the tire as well. Now, I didn't juice up the tires with tire goo. I just hit it with the same stuff with a light cloth to get the dirt off of there, but to leave some of that patina within the treads and things like that so they don't look like they're, well, just, you know, all hoard up. So anyway, I've got to do the rear wheel here so that it matches the front. But as I step back, the overall view of this little Jeep is really looking spectacular. Now, before I attack the other side, I think I'm going to roll it out in the sun and do a little walk around so you can see sort of a before and after between the passenger and driver's side. So here's a little walk around of the side I have not touched and the side that I have. So obviously you can tell a big difference in the before and after there. But I want to show you up close. You can see that I left these spots, these areas where things are a little dark and so on and so forth. The temptation, of course, is to try to color sand some of this out, which you can, but this one, it's a Jeep. I don't want it to look too perfect. Its ruggedness and its bumps and bruises and that sort of thing are all a part of its history. I mean, this thing has spent time driving through some of the most rugged landscape there is, exploring the Anza-Borrego Desert, as well as driving around on the streets of Southern California. I mean, it's a cool historic piece. And again, I don't want to make it too perfect, but I think it looks a lot more presentable with everything clean and a little bit of that color back. So it's a gentle touch that I'm taking to it. I don't want to take off any paint. I don't want to change the overall character of Little Joe here. I just want to make it look like Little Joe is loved and that he's cherished and that he is preserved for the future. And I definitely see that here. I mean, looking at how the floors are coming out, all the interior pieces, this thing is a rock solid survivor, and it's an absolute pleasure to transform it. So next step, of course, is to complete the polishing and cleaning on the other side. I'm also going to remove the top and bring it out and do some scrubbing on that to see if I can get some of this dirt and staining off of there, and then put that back on. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge. We still have a little bit of mechanical work to do and cleaning and detailing in the engine compartment. I started kind of wiping things down just a little bit here, but I really need to get in here, soak that engine, see if I can clean stuff up. I did clean the top of the air cleaner so you can see that original decal. All those little details will come out with a good proper cleaning and preservation. In any case, that's what I've been up to with Little Joe, the Jeep. I'm going to do another video, of course, when we get it all done and the detail is finished. And then I'm also working on a video on the history, not only of Little Joe, but of Horace Parker, the original owner of this, who was an amazing man that did all sorts of really neat stuff here, not only with chronicling and documenting the Anza-Borrego Desert area, but a lot of local history in the Temecula Valley. And I think it'd be fun to share the history of that, as well as some more historic photos of Little Joe in action. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. Keep on digging them up and driving them. There's treasure everywhere. Let's save it, let's preserve it, and let's share it with everyone we possibly can so that the future is secure when it comes to these historic cars. Thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.